So then you got to go do the codec dance, which doesn't your fix for that you have on your website does not seem to work in Rawhide because it
probably wouldn't.
The FFmpeg libs aren't available for the unreleased version of Fedora yet.
Right, because there is no RPM Fusion for Rawhide.
Yeah, it added it added the right repos, but it did not install FFmpeg because it doesn't have one available for Fedora 40.
Oh, so RPM Fusion is available, but there is no FFmpeg libs in
the
RPM Fusion for Rawhide.
Right.
Got it. Rawhide, Devel, Tainted. Okay.
Which?
Can you search this?
That's just a bummer. It's just not available yet, probably.
Oh my God. Dan, oh my God, do you know when they added it? Do you know when they added FFmpeg libs? Do you know?
Don't tell me today.
Yesterday. Yeah.
Guess what? I know what I'm doing later.
Coming up in this episode, notating the notes. The history of KDE. And Plasma, straight from the tap. Welcome to Linux User Space. I'm Leo.
And I'm Dan.
Dan. So, notes.
Yeah.
You take notes?
Sometimes.
Yeah,
Sometimes I take notes. I'm usually a little scatterbrained, but yeah, when I get things down, I put them in a note.
Okay, so you got 18 different note apps?
Probably.
Or...
Yeah, no, I have a few. No, we've hawked a couple, and I used them, and I've used some other apps, and I've got a few things that, no.
Okay, so maybe not an app, but what's your favorite way to take notes? Is it Markdown?
Yeah, I think so. Most of the apps that I use all use Markdown, so
yeah,
I think that's my favorite. Yeah, I'm not so much like the WYSIWYG type. I'm fine with just looking at the code view, honestly.
Okay.
So I don't necessarily have the preview panel open on the ones that offer the preview panel. At least at first, I usually do a rough go of things, and then I'll go looking at it.
Yeah. Well, that's usually how I do it. So this whole conversation came up because in the live stream, I was complaining, I guess, about...
Yeah, you had a gripe. That's cool.
So Markdown, right? It's very easy to read. It's very easy to write and get your headings in there.
Yeah,
and
like rich
your
text.
Links and right. You can make it look pretty, and you don't have to take your hands off the keys. That's really cool, and I like that a lot. But one thing that has been bothering me is that, and you're gonna see it in the KDE history, that every single one of these episodes, I try to flex a little bit of the writing. More on the writing and less on the here's some straight facts. Straight facts
I get
at
that.
you.
Yeah.
And one of the things that has come up is when I read back what I wrote, it's really hard to do that in Markdown view. So you have to go over a preview view. And the thing that makes it so hard is links. So when you do a link, basically square bracket around the thing that you want to become the link, the thing that you click on, and then in parens right next to it, you put where you want the link to take you to, right?
Right.
But when you're in the Markdown editing mode, that takes up
a lot of space.
Yeah, I'm dealing with archive links a lot of times, and some of these note windows don't go wide enough.
Yeah,
and the archive link takes up 2-3
lines.
2
lines, yeah.
And so if I'm reading that back, I have to skip down 3 lines. I lose my place. I lose the flow. And so it gets a little weird. Now, remember, I like Markdown. I like it a lot.
Right.
But I was complaining about this on the live stream, and I got a couple of suggestions. So, the first of which was, "Hey, have you read the manual?"
Yeah,
they didn't They didn't write it like that.
It wasn't quite like that, but
But-
you're not wrong, right? Have you checked the manual? Yeah.
Yeah, in the nicest way possible.
It was the perfect way
Dominic-
possible, but yes.
Yeah, Dominic in Telegram mentioned reference style links. He gave me a link to essentially just the manual for Markdown, and I appreciate that kind of answer though. That is an answer that I like because I like to go figure it out myself. That is a big thing about me,
and it's good to have a reference, right? Yeah,
right. So apparently, what you can do is instead of linking like a word or words and then having the link right out next to that, you can just do a number in square brackets, and then lower down on the document, you can reference that number and then put the link. So it makes it so much easier to read because instead of, 3 lines of linkage, you've got 3 characters of linkage. Vast improvement. So I liked that a lot. And then like the same day, Furicle on Mastodon backed him up. Same deal. Same information, almost the same link. I think it was the same doc, but I think Furicle had like the laser focus on the thing.
Yeah.
But I had found it by that point. But it's fantastic. So there's a way to do it without tripping me up while I'm reading it, and that's actually pretty cool. And then right after that, the conversation got steered to MarkText, which is an editor that kind of gives you the best of both worlds. It's very much like the Nextcloud Notes, where you got style and substance, the Markdown substance, in the same place.
Yeah, in the view. Yeah.
All right. But I have a third solution.
Yeah.
And you know what? I have to say it. I don't mind bloat, because I guarantee you using this only for notes is the epitome of what many folks would call bloat. So I got a note-taking app, and it came with a browser. Yeah, Dan, this is your favorite browser, as a matter of fact.
It's, one or two. Like they're like I waffle back and forth between Firefox and Vivaldi, right? So
okay, so it's one of your 2 favorite browsers.
But it's got some features that I do love, yes, and I do use it as a browser primarily.
Yeah, if bloat were a browser,
Vivaldi's
it would be Vivaldi.
No, I'm not gonna lie, like it comes with everything, including the kitchen sink. Yep, I'm sure that's in there. Yeah. I'm sure it's one of the buttons you can push.
I guarantee it. Over there with the Mastodon link and the notes link and the calendar link and the mail link.
I swear I saw the kitchen sink button. Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, exactly. So apparently, and here's the killer feature. This is the thing that does it for me. Yeah. Vivaldi has sync.
Yes, it does. It does have sync. Yep.
So Vivaldi has notes, and
let me, before you go too far, I'll say that I've never used Vivaldi sync. Like I only recently have I actually turned on the Firefox sync stuff. Mm-hmm. Typically in the past, I guess I'm too much of a tinfoil hatter about this particular topic.
Yeah.
That I don't really know how much I like that. Even still, it doesn't quite give me the heebie-jeebies, but it doesn't make me feel real comfortable. That's all.
Yep. The only thing about the Vivaldi sync is that the only kind of information they could possibly vacuum up from me is a weirdo that really, really enjoys Linux and desktop history.
Yeah, I mean, I get that.
Who is this guy? How do you even sell to him?
Yeah, I get I'm probably super uninteresting, but at the same time, like there's your history is getting passed around, right? I can get over it though.
Well, I don't want you to get over it because I don't think I'm over it. I trust Firefox to do that kind of thing, but the stuff I'll do in Vivaldi is I'm currently considering using Vivaldi just for the history digging for these episodes because of the notes thing, because that's where I do my writing. So
it's nice having them together.
Yes. All right. But here's why I decided to kind of dodge the reference style links and dodge MarkText for now. This is in flux. I don't know it might change. But Vivaldi Notes, it opens up a panel and it looks like a note app. It doesn't look like a Markdown app. And as a matter of fact, if you don't go clicking around, you'd never know it was Markdown. This is my favorite thing about technical stuff. If you can put something in front of someone that is not technical and they could use it just fine, that is a winner.
That's true.
And this is exactly what Vivaldi was trying to do. You got to go find the little visual text toggle. And when you click on the text toggle, what do you know? It's Markdown back there. And I think they need to add a couple of features, but like quoting, there's no button to quote. But by default, it looks just like Evernote or Apple Notes or whatever, right? It's it's WYSIWYG, right? There's bold italics and stuff up at the top, and it works for notes. The end. And that's fantastic. So like I can't do quotes. There's a lot of quotes in the notes. But I can't do quotes. I have to swap over to Markdown, add the little sideways caret, and then do the quote, and then toggle back. That's fine. I'm okay with that.
It works that way?
Yes. And sometimes the formatting will get kind of junked up, but then I swap over to the Markdown mode and just kind of tinker it up. Because I like Markdown. I like messing with that. Right. That's fine. And it works perfectly.
Okay. So it does render whatever you put in there.
Yes, you cannot tell just by looking at it, but it is a pure Markdown editor. You're just defaulted to the preview mode, but the killer feature about this is that you can edit in the preview mode.
Right.
That's the one thing. That's why I was so attracted to Nextcloud's implementation, which is you can edit and preview, but it favors the Markdown look.
Yeah.
But Vivaldi goes the other way, where they favor the doc style look, where you don't see the hashes and the carets and stuff. But I like that because, again, while reading, it makes it so much easier to parse. So,
well, that's why we put like headings and underlines on things, right? It is easier to parse after it's been formatted. Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm looking at our Markdown notes right now, but I ain't in the Markdown style. I'm in the preview mode where the emojis look cool and I can just read.
Right.
That's super important. So anyway, the workflow was really nice. A little janky at times, but it's really nice. The thing that is making me kind of second guess it is that I signed into the sync. I had to resurrect the account that I made years ago and then sign into it. And then I signed into it on a couple other devices. And I opened up Vivaldi on those devices and the notes weren't there.
Did it sync your other things?
I don't know. I didn't look. I don't care about any. I just wanted to sync the notes.
I was just wondering if it did any syncing.
It could have. I'll have to check. But right now I'm kind of in a weird limbo where I had to use my Nextcloud notes to kind of like copy paste from one device to the other. If Vivaldi can do the syncing on the notes, I might not be able to leave.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. I don't do images, so I'm not worried about butting up against some kind of weird Vivaldi. Oh, you can only have 500 megabytes, or something.
Too big
limit.
Your files are too big or something. Yeah.
So that would be great.
It would be. That's pretty cool. I have not tried the syncing, like I said. So even though you told me not to, I think I might now.
Do it.
Yeah,
I want to find out what I've been doing wrong,
or if I can make it work. Which might not happen. I don't know.
You probably can.
So, so I've never used that. Like I have used obviously we use HedgeDoc to share between us, which is fantastic. Like I feel like that is a great platform if you're collaborating on a document, right? There's other things you can do, but this is just kind of seamless and it works great.
Yeah.
So, and it doesn't matter where you edit your notes. You can plop them in there as long as they're marked down, which is just a cut and paste sort of operation, and that's easy enough. But where I'm going with that is I have used Joplin is the other note-taking app that I've used, and it will do syncing on the back end, and so you can set it up to use any number of things to be your back end storage place.
That's Janis Joplin. Whoop.
Not Janis, no, not the singer.
Got it.
Joplin note-taking app, and it can use OneDrive, Google Drive.
Super typical.
You can use all of those
Markdown
things, but you can use your Nextcloud too as just pure storage, straight up storage if you want it as well. It has all the things, right?
This would probably be a pretty decent front end for the actual Nextcloud notes. So, like, you could, if you didn't have Joplin available, you could just go straight into the Nextcloud notes and edit them directly, as opposed to using the Joplin front end.
And so it's cross-platform. The nice thing about it is it works on, at least for me, it works on an Android as well, right? So I can sync my things all around any device I have. So that's that's the other one I've used. I've used Apostrophe a bunch of times.
That one's good for just plain writing.
Right.
Once you start needing to do lots of complicated things,
it does.
I feel like some other editors might be a little bit better. But if I'm just plain writing, like not for the show or anything like that, I'm just writing. Apostrophe's beautiful, fantastic.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
And I would paint Ghostwriter in the same vein.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
They're very similar, right?
They are. It's not Ghostwriter, is it?
No, it's not.
Okay, all right.
But yes,
making sure.
Yes.
We got the K flavor in this episode today.
Yeah, we do. So I've used both of those as well, and they're fantastic on their own.
Yep.
But that's it. They're just on their own. Typically, you have to do some more manual intervention to make the sync stuff happen if that's what you're looking for.
I could if like Apostrophe exploded one day and was no longer around, I could move to Ghostwriter and it would be just as good.
Yep.
I really appreciate Ghostwriter.
Yep.
And it's written in Qt, right?
It is
cute.
Yeah, it is. It's cute.
Very cool.
Yeah, I like both of those. I can use that just fine. And like I've used those just to not collaborate things sometimes on purpose, right?
Yeah. Well, I like having local stuff. I like writing it just here. I like I'm about to say something stupid because I have to open up Vivaldi, which is a browser, to get to my notes in this case, right? But I don't like opening up a browser and going to a website to do notes.
Yeah, I agree with that.
As I was just talking about.
Well, and the other thing is
notes.
like the mobile device integration component, right? I don't enjoy writing on my mobile device, but if I need to take some notes and have it again later without getting my phone back out, I like that option of having to be able to sync those things around. So in a way, that's pretty good.
That's killer, man. It's really good. It's really good. So I'm messing around with it. I haven't settled on what I want to do. Vivaldi looks like a pretty clear front runner, but it does come with a whole lot of what folks might actually call bloat. But
the browser part's pretty good for me. So like I don't know. Like I feel like I like one of the things I absolutely love is tab stacking. I like stacking my tabs that belong together. So especially when I'm doing things for like the show or whatever, I'll have like all
85.
Well, like in this episode, right? I'll have all the KDE things, and I'll have all the cute things, and then I'll have KDE neon stuff, or like I can put them all in a group and stack them up, and then it expands and collapses, and it doesn't look too cluttered when you get all said and done.
Yeah. Well, it helps avoid that whole you only got icons because you have so many tabs open you can't even tell what anything is anymore.
Or
it
the
helps
big
avoid
long
that.
list that you got to scroll through.
Yeah. Oh yeah, because you can do the tabs on the side. I didn't even do that. I haven't done that yet. That may be something. All right. Well, I'm not going to leave Firefox though. Absolutely not. So it will be history digging browser for me if that's what it comes to. But everyday life still going to be Firefox.
You're probably watching us on YouTube, but if you're not watching us on YouTube, you can, and you should. So go over there, hit the bell, subscribe, do all those things. But additionally, if you just want our faces and some history, you can go over to TILvids and catch us there, where we've got all the history bits released in video. And,
that's right.
And if you really love us, give us a buck or two and over on Patreon and help support the show. If you're a patron, you get things early, and maybe you get the worst of things for the most money. I'm not sure.
Yeah. How did we phrase that? It was
you get the full unedited show over there, which is cool.
Yeah.
And
you pay the most to get the worst. Is that what we said?
I think so. Yeah, you pay the most, get the worst. That's how this goes.
It's true, because you get the stuff that I have to cut out of the show. Right?
Absolutely.
So, I mean, you get all the flubs and redos, and but that's not it, right? I mean, what was it? We hit the 45-minute mark before we ever started the show.
Mm-hmm.
And I know we're going to go for another 10, 15 minutes at the end, if not more, it depends on how sleepy I am and how hungry I am, that I'm just like, I got to eat wings or something.
So if you'd rather spend 3 hours at this thing, you should, give us some money and you can get the episode early and get
They have been that long before. Yeah, they're usually in the 2.5 hour range, where the episodes are 1.5 tops. Usually.
Yeah, typically we try to limit it a little bit. We do. We do, like, it's all one take, but it is cut.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we go back and I shake my head and I'm like, I read that one wrong.
Hey,
yeah, but
even if you don't want that, maybe you just want to join our Lemmy instance because you're looking for a Lemmy instance to join. Patrons get access to that as well, and then
that's right.
On top of all of that, you get some, set aside Discord space just for the patrons, in addition.
That's right.
So there's some perks.
A lot of the like timestampy stuff. So you kind of get a preview of what's coming in the show, and some of the thumbnails and stuff like that, and a little bit of the chatter that happens in there as well. So, $1 gets you a whole lot. Honestly, it gets you some server space. It gets you a cool Discord space.
And then you get our undying love.
Well, you get that on any tier.
That's true.
You know what? You get that for free.
That is true. You get more of it, I think. I don't know.
Maybe so. I give you more emojis in the patron user space. So yeah, that definitely happens. To have used Linux in the late 90s was to be in a state of constant flux. Not because the crop of software available on Linux was ever changing, though it certainly was, but because developers of all stripes, much as they do today, had immense potential to create change, to disrupt what some were sure was an untapped market. And they tried many, many times. The common desktop environment had been around since 1993, but only on Unix boxes until CDE was ported to Red Hat in 1997. Overall, time would not be kind to CDE, nor would other Linux distributions, as the original proprietary desktop was never properly ported to anything else in the Linux world. Not for lack of trying, but because proprietary software, especially desktops, had a hard time earning mind share from the early Linux distro pioneers, the Adam Richters, Owen LeBlancs, Patrick Volkerdings, and Ian Murdochs. This remains true today, with one exception. It was a Monday, one like many Mondays before it in 1996. Except that this Monday, a new newsgroup post penned by Matthias Ettrich could be downloaded, titled, New Project, Kool Desktop Environment, KDE. Programmers wanted, it started.
Unix popularity grows thanks to the free variants, mostly Linux. But still, a consistent, nice-looking, free desktop environment is missing.
And this was true. Most of the options that Linux users had were really window managers, unless you looked to the proprietary solutions like CDE and Looking Glass. And more than that, even defining what a graphical user interface even was in the open source world would prove to be difficult. But Matthias took the leap anyway.
The idea is not to create a GUI for the complete Unix system or the system administrator. For that purpose, the Unix CLI with thousands of tools and scripting languages is much better. The idea is to create a GUI for an end user. Somebody who wants to browse the web with Linux, write some letters, and play some nice games.
There was also a push to create a common look and feel to the entire thing, leaving behind the hodgepodge of styles of CDE. At the time, this was unheard of in the open source world, at least as it pertains to getting code into a compiler. Of the toolkits and libraries out there, Matthias chose Trolltech's Qt. They were a company solely focused on development of Qt, so they put up the money and developer time in managing and testing the widget libraries. And better still, it was portable to Windows. The downside, though, was one of licensing. At the time, it was free to run personally, and you even got the source code under the Qt Free Edition license. But on the other end was the Qt Commercial license. And because the Free Edition did not allow modifying Qt itself, most in the free software movement didn't want to touch it. In spite of this, KDE continued, but not after getting a little less cool. Matthias said in an interview with Linux Journal,
"Originally, we thought about giving the K a meaning other than KDE, but we gave up that idea before the first line of code was written."
Much like XFCE ever so slightly before it, the K desktop environment would soon become a looser collection of pieces with the panel, file manager, terminal, and other bits being developed and released independently. Almost a year later, KDE development was in full swing, but efforts could be done much faster in person. So, a meeting of about 15 developers dubbed KDE 1 was scheduled for August 15, 1997 in Arnsberg, Germany, where, among other things, internationalization and documentation was prioritized, and progress was made on the very first file manager in KDE, named KFM, or K File Manager. With all that work behind them, the K desktop environment would see its first real beta release 1 year and 6 days after the inaugural announcement. It became clear quite quickly that KDE wasn't just some pet project. Even in the early stages, KDE was functional, fast, and came with almost everything one might need to get right to work. However, some wondered if the look and feel of the desktop wasn't lifted from other projects. Could you blame them? The icons and task tray and clock resembled Windows 95. The workspace switcher and launchers resembled CDE. And there were even some warp elements in there. However, in response, the core team wrote,
KDE is not a CDE, Windows, or OS2 clone. While some ideas may have originated from those systems, KDE is unique, and we have no intentions of cloning another system.
Later in 97, KDE EV was founded in Tübingen, Germany, the same city the desktop was announced in, to represent KDE financially and legally. After 2 more beta releases, one in November of 97 and another in February of 98, the proper release of KDE 1.0 was released to everyone on July 12, 1998. The idea that the software should integrate and have a consistent look wasn't just an idea anymore. Parts of the KDE Office application suite, much of which was still in alpha, like K-Presenter, were being shipped with KDE itself. It was a presentation software that had already been used live at the 5th International Linux Congress with great success. The next iteration of KDE, 1.1, was released in February of 99, improving KFM, which would soon become Konqueror. It also included a short-lived Kmail 2, and introduced the iconic letter K on top of a gear. This icon, though changed a bit, is still in use today. But new additions and improvements didn't stop there. Later in April of '99, because KDE can't be outdone by Clippy, an animated mascot, Conky, named after the Conqueror browser, was announced. While not officially the KDE mascot yet, Conky was very popular and would overtake Candolph, the original KDE mascot, soon enough. Though there were more releases of KDE 1.1, they were mostly bug fix releases, as earlier in '99, Qt had announced version 2.0. So efforts were focused on a port to it, which would eventually turn into KDE 2.0 to match. This also signaled a change within Qt, as they released Qt 2 under the Q public license. The biggest change here was that Qt licensing could never be more restrictive than the QPL itself. However, this was still not enough for the Free Software Foundation. KDE 1.1.1 and 1.1.2 were released later in the year, and shortly after, in December, 1.89, Crash, with a K, of course, was released to developers based on Qt 2.0. After the Y2K scare settled down, 5 betas, 1.90 to 1.94, were released between May and September, with a 2.0 release candidate on October 10th, 2000. The official 2.0 release came shortly after on the 23rd. And in this release, aside from the fact that most of the KDE code had been entirely rewritten for the new Qt, Conqueror officially replaced KFM, and the full K-Office suite made its debut. Conqueror did it all. Browsed the web, could handle all the user-facing file management on the system, and show all the documents you threw at it. It stood tall against its competition, Internet Explorer and Netscape Communicator. KHTML, the engine at the heart of Conqueror, would eventually be used in projects like Apple's WebKit for use in Safari and Google's Blink for use in Chrome and Chromium. Conqueror truly is the grandfather of the modern web. As for the K-Office suite, KSpread for spreadsheets, K-Illustrator for vector drawing, K-Word for word processing, K-Presenter for presentations, and K-Charts for diagrams were all included. All while maintaining the customizability that KDE has always been known for. KDE could be easily installed in Caldera, Debian, Mandrake, Red Hat, SUSE, and True64. 4 months later in 2001, KDE 2.1 is released with, and I'm guessing here, no Attune, a media player, and KDevelop, KDE's own development environment. 6 months after that, KDE 2.2. This release was able to make 50% gains in startup times for some applications and improved Conqueror, KHTML, and KJavaScript quite a bit. The final release of the KDE 2 series was on November 21st, 2001, with the 2.2.2 maintenance release. Katie, Conky's next-door neighbor, girlfriend, little sister? It depends on who you ask, was announced along with a new group, KDE Women. The group was meant to foster inclusivity and bring more women into free software communities. In April of 2002, KDE 3.0 was released as a bit of a surprise to casual onlookers. No beta announcements here, but that didn't stop the team from developing a locked-down kiosk mode, KDE Print, which would be the front end for things like cups, and LPR, which was accessible to all applications on KDE, and brought the popular vCard compatibility to Kmail. It still looked a lot like KDE 2.2.2, but whispers of a new default window and icon theme were there, if one cared to look. And at the beginning of 2003, KDE 3.1 debuted with Ceramic, a new window theme, and Crystal, a new icon theme. These assets set the visual tone for KDE for the rest of the next few releases. Tabbed browsing was also introduced in Conqueror, as well as LDAP support for Contact, and Zine also made its debut as a multi-format media player plugin. KDE 3.2 followed in the next year, and marked the fastest KDE ever up to that point. Lots of applications that are still being developed today are included, like Juke, a jukebox-style music player, and K-Wallet, a password and web data manager. Later in the year, in August, KDE 3.3 brought integrations between applications, with Konqueror able to send IMs, Kmail able to view online users, and eventually just gobbling up Kopete altogether. And Juke could now burn CDs with K3B. And just a few days later, the very first KDE Community World Summit 2004, named Academy, was held, bringing together developers, power users, and the general public to get an idea of what happens behind the scenes and to influence the direction of KDE. At the end of 2004, in December, Andreas Mueller of Knoppix, Chris Halls of OpenOffice, and Jonathan Riddell of KDE worked together to create Kubuntu, a new Ubuntu-blessed version using KDE instead of GNOME. In March, KDE 3.4 was released with a renewed focus on accessibility, with a new text-to-speech system that supported the most popular K applications. Shortly after the release of KDE 3.4, and after 4 months of development work on April 8th, Kubuntu is officially born. And toward the end of the year, KDE 3.5 was released with Super Caramba, introducing the things we know today as widgets. Konqueror was, for a short time, one of the fastest and most feature-complete browsers on the market, outshining even Internet Explorer and Firefox. No wonder Apple wanted a piece of that action. There had been 2 additional meetings since KDE 1, aptly named KDE 2 in '99 and KDE 3 in 2000, but it had been a while since a developer meeting like those had happened, until the KDE 4 core meeting in 2006, where KDE devs gathered to hash out what KDE 4 was going to be. There were also other meetings like KDE 4 Multimedia for their respective focus. This would all come to a head at Academy's September 2006 hacking sessions to glue it all together. After a few months more of hacking, KDE 4 Alpha 1 saw the light of day on May 11, 2007. KDE 4 went through 2 alpha stages, 4 beta releases, and 2 release candidates throughout the year. But it wasn't until January 11, 2008 that KDE 4 was officially released to the world. It was the first stable release to replace Konqueror as the file manager with the solution we have today, Dolphin. Up until then, Konqueror had the reputation of being too complicated to use as a simple file manager. But, like Internet Explorer and the File Explorer, Konqueror and Dolphin still shared an immense amount of code between them. And LqLarry, the current document viewer in place today, was introduced to replace KPDF and KGhostView. Finally, the style was changed again. Oxygen gave a visual refresh to everything. And the general look and feel may have been the most stable thing about 4.0. As it turns out, though, giving it the .0 version will get people to believe it's nice and ready, fresh out of the oven. However, the devs didn't actually intend it to be so. It was meant to be a slow migration from KDE 3.5 to KDE 4, when things were ready for each individual. Those that knew this were accepting of that fact, but those that didn't were quick to criticize. Linus Torvalds, in an interview with Computer World, said,
"I used to be a KDE user. I thought KDE 4.0 was such a disaster. I switched to GNOME. I hate the fact that my right button doesn't do what I want it to do. But the whole break everything model is painful for users, and they can choose to use something else. I realized the reason for the 4.0 release, but I think they did it badly. They did so many changes, it was a half-baked release. It may turn out to be the right decision in the end, and I will retry KDE, but I suspect I'm not the only person they lost."
Aaron Sago, a KDE developer, had heard quite a few of these arguments before, so he addressed some, with one being, KDE 4.0 isn't what a business would do. He responded,
By asking KDE to behave like a proprietary company, these people are asking KDE to abandon what has worked for us all these years. They are asking us to abandon our identity, to cease doing what resulted in the free software desktop going from non-existent in the mid-90s to parity in just over 10 years. Remembering that we started 15 years and multi-billions of dollars behind our competition, that's a pretty impressive success story.
The development of KDE 3.5 continued on throughout 2008 with maintenance and bug fixes, and the last version, 3.5.10, was released in August. After that, it was full speed ahead on KDE 4. With the release of KDE 4.1 in July, some improvements were delivered, but not enough to win over those that felt like KDE 4 left them behind. About a year after the initial 4.0 release, KDE 4.2 is released. It was at this point that Aaron Sago gave his blessing for those still on 3.5 to make the switch to KDE 4. With thousands of bug fixes and improvements under its belt, it was true, too. Theming improvements, new Plasma applets, multi-screen support, and even KRunner getting lots of love and morphing more into what we know it as today. It was a great release and really served to convince some to return to KDE again. A couple of months before 4.3 was to be released, KDE hit the 1 million commit milestone. It was a fix for Akonadi, a personal information manager framework. And in August, KDE 4.3 was released and focused on polish, now that the big hurdles were behind them. More than 10,000 bugs were squashed and 2,000 feature requests were implemented. PolicyKit, Network Manager, and KRunner were at the forefront this time. Later in the 4.3 cycle, all of KDE, starting from 4.3.4, is a software compilation now, abbreviated as KDE SC. In February of 2010, KDE SC 4.4 was released with a new animation framework named Kinetic that came with Qt, making for nicer transitions between applications and workspaces. As a result of the perception of KDE 4 and 4.1, a fork of KDE 3.5 was eventually announced in April. It was named the Trinity Desktop Environment and released a maintenance release at 3.5.11 and continued development until the next major version, which was changed to version 14 to avoid confusion with KDE. Later in the year in August, KDE SC 4.5 was released, and as they each had their own team and personality, separate releases were announced for the platform, application, and Plasma workspaces. WebKit was now integrated and will be worked on alongside KHTML. In the works since mid-2010, an official split from KOffice as a result of unresolved differences. On one side, you had KPresenter, Krita, Carbon, and Kexi. On the other, the KOffice name, but only KWord as software, headed up by Thomas Zander. Those differences led, eventually, to the ultimate demise of KOffice as it never made it past version 2.4, though Calligra, the new group, took up what was left of the mantle and continued. In January of 2011, 4.6 was released with an all-new activities system which allowed anyone to group tasks together to speed up workflows. Dolphin got faceted browsing to make file searching easier, and the KDE platform slimmed down in preparation for a mobile device release. For 4.7 in July, activities takes a bigger role in the desktop. And finally, the work started in 4.6 paid off with the release of Plasma Active for tablet devices.
A mobile device should be more than a collection of applications. It should reflect who you are. Plasma Active infuses your tablet with the smarts to support what you are doing, when you are doing it, with the all-new touch-based activities user experience.
It really was the usual Plasma, but with a huge focus on the activities workflow found on the desktop. In November, K desktop environment is just KDE now.
KDE's identity has shifted from being simply a desktop environment to representing a global community that creates a remarkably rich body of free software targeted for use by people everywhere. KDE is no longer software created by people, but people who create software.
KDE saw 2 releases in 2012, 4.8 and 4.9. Together, they brought adaptive power management to save on electricity and battery life, better file management, touch-friendly components, and lots of application and workspace improvements. In October, KDE put into words what the developers, community, and users already knew. They penned a manifesto that reaffirmed their commitment to open governance, free software, inclusivity, innovation, common ownership, and end-user focus. And finally, in December, a redesigned Conky mascot that's cuter than ever. 4.10, 4.11, and 4.12 were all released in 2013, focusing on performance, user experience, and stability. But in the middle of all that improvement, the way KDE released software changed. What was once a structured release of application, platform, and workspaces would now be broken apart as of 4.11. The idea was to allow users and developers to pick releases as it fit them best, rather than to force users to follow along with the development, as work on version 5 of frameworks, version 2 of workspaces, and application porting to Qt 5 had already begun to heat up. Workspaces, now known as Plasma, made its debut at the end of the year in a technology preview. A few months later, on July 15th, 2014, KDE Plasma 5.0 was released to all as a stable update. For those that didn't want to wait, Neon 5 was available, an echo of what was to come. Plasma 5 focused on KRunner, customizable panel layouts with multiple desktops, a multi-line clipboard, and central media control. Not to mention the previously worked-on activities and session management, all while sporting an entirely new theme and icon set, all dubbed Breeze, complete with dark mode. In August, KDE SC 4.14 was released and would be the last in the series, but didn't shy away from improvements. However, focus was squarely on Plasma 5 and Frameworks 5. After this last release, KDE quietly moved away from calling things software compilations because of the Plasma framework and application split. 5.1 in October focused on porting over anything that was left out of the original release when moving over from Plasma in KDE 4. 5.2, 3, 4, and 5 were all released in 2015, bringing with them better Bluetooth support, a GTK 2 and 3 style configurator, initial and then improved Wayland support, and better power management. During the long list of releases, a wild Plasma Mobile appeared in July, replacing the previously released Plasma Active, and shifted slightly to phones as well as tablets, with the first prototype available for the Nexus 5, a notoriously tinkery device. Pine 64 followed at the end of the year. Lesser known, but still important, Plasma Big Screen was announced as a smart TV ecosystem. In January of 2016, the first big announcement from KDE was KDE Neon.
KDE Neon is the intersection of these needs using a stable Ubuntu long-term release as its core, packaging the hottest software fresh from the KDE community ovens. Compute knowing you have a solid foundation and enjoy the features you experience in the world's most customizable desktop.
In the rest of 2016, 5.6, 7, and 8 were released with a focus on security, much more Wayland, and a long-term support version in 5.8. Also in 5.8, phone integration with KDE Connect and better desktop searching in KRunner. On October 14th, KDE turned 20. There are only a couple of other desktops that can claim to have lived so long and to have had such a storied history. In the beginning of 2017, the first Slimbook, a laptop by a manufacturer of the same name, is announced as KDE Slimbook, and it ships with KDE Neon so customers always get the latest and greatest Plasma. Later in the year, Plasma 5.9, 10, and 11 were all released with more of the usual performance improvements and Wayland work, but also a system settings redesign and notification history was added. In 2018, the first release, 5.12, was an LTS that brought more of the same, but in a long-term flavor. This was followed by 5.13 and 14 later in the year that introduced the Plasma browser integration, so things like notifications and downloads could be monitored right from Plasma itself, something that other OSs have had for a while. They also brought a better First Connect multi-monitor dialog to help with the ease of setup. In 2019, 5.15, 16, and 17 were released with, you guessed it, better Wayland support with a focus on NVIDIA and fractional scaling, but also a Do Not Disturb feature, integrated WireGuard VPN support, log, login, and logout screen redesigns. In 2020, 5.18 marked another long-term support release followed by 5.19 and 20. Improvements continued as they always do. Better disk monitoring, a simplified system setting, better GTK app integration, and a global animation speed setting. On Wayland Island, support for screencasting, a shared clipboard, Windows thumbnails, and scrolling speed adjustments were added. In 2021, 5.21, 22, and 23 were all released with a new theme, the new Plasma System Monitor app, a firewall settings page, and power saving modes now show up in the panel to match work being done over on the GNOME side. Behind the scenes, but as a huge win, KDE Plasma is chosen for the Steam Deck when in desktop mode. This allows anyone to have full access to a real Linux desktop when they're not playing games. A real testament to the quality of the Plasma session. This year also marked more changes for KDE. They moved development and chat platforms to GitLab and Matrix. Another triplet of releases in 2022, 5.24 and LTS, 25 and 26 brought an overview manager to make desktop switching easier, a Breeze theme overhaul, fingerprint authentication support, trackpad gesture support, and better support for scaled X-Wayland applications to remove blurry apps in most cases. In 2023, there was only one release, 5.27. It has a new welcome wizard, a new window tiling system, and Flatpak permission support in Discover to mimic what's available in Flatseal. Work has already begun on the not yet released as of now Plasma 6, which explains the lack of new versions. And if you're adventurous enough, you've been able to get a hold of Plasma 6 since November 8th, 2023 with the first alpha. Beta 1 released on November 29th and Beta 2 on December 20th. Plasma 6's release date is planned for February 28th of 2024. But we already have, on January 10th, 2024, the first release candidate. The developers warn it's not quite production ready, but it's time to look that direction. Bug reports are wanted as things are firming up for the official release.
You can catch all the great topics and news stories as they unfold on our Lemmy subreddit or our news channel on Discord. You can catch all those at linuxuserspace.show/Lemmy, Reddit, Discord, Mastodon, Telegram, Ettrich, Twitch, Twitter. I don't know, we've got more, but you just plug that Linux user space thing, .show, right in the front, and then whatever platform you're looking for, and you'll probably find us.
I'm going to run out of fingers eventually when we do that. So, yeah. It's jump on board, man, before I have to grow an 11th finger. And I have to bring the toes up to compensate.
And if you can't keep up with all of the things that I just said right there, check out the show notes because we'll have links to everything right there.
Dan, we cheated.
Well, a few times.
I'm gonna blame Neil.
Absolutely. Neil Gompa, if you're listening, thank you.
It's your fault. We originally started this whole thing out where we were just going to use Plasma. I know we wanted to push it a little bit to get access to Plasma 6, but
we did.
I was perfectly fine with just using 5.27, which is the last release, probably because it's the LTS.
Yeah, I think it's planned to be. Yes, the next release will be 6.0 probably,
and then 6 forever after that.
Yeah, well, yeah.
But Neil mentioned on the last live stream that Fedora Rawhide would be rolling in the Plasma 6 release candidate that we just mentioned in the history.
Yeah, like the day we did the live stream.
Yeah, like it was the next day.
Right.
And I let that simmer for another day, and then I installed it, which is right here.
What you see over there, yeah.
Yeah, it's there. It's working. It has not fully exploded yet, but there's a few rough edges.
Well, yeah, I mean, so you say that. Like, I did 3 different distributions, all with Plasma 6.
And they were all perfect?
Oh, no.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
So, no, but I'm just saying at various times, like, so I did beta 1, beta 2, and then the release candidate, right? So
okay.
So I yeah, in all fairness, yeah, no, I mean, early days, some of those, when I was testing some of that stuff.
Yep. Before we get too far into Plasma 6, I do want to note that Plasma 5.27 is actually quite stable.
That's actually what I'm running right here, right? So
yeah,
I mean,
safely.
Yeah.
So Dan, you can speak a lot to 5.27. I can speak a little less on 5.27, but my general thought is it's very stable.
Yeah, darn good.
I really love the blur. Plasma 6 is really tugging at my heartstrings because they have better X Wayland support than GNOME does.
You say Wayland anything, and it's a lot better in Plasma 6. It's okay in 5.27, but it's a lot better in 6.
Well, the Ubuntu hack, and I call it a hack because you have to go into like dconf editor to enable it in the first place, where you do the 125, 150, the quarter scaling.
Oh yeah, I know what you mean.
It's a hack. But
it comes out of the box. Yeah,
in Plasma. As a matter of fact, as soon as I got 5.27, so this is Fedora 39 before I swapped over to Rawhide. It had already, by default, scaled my desktop 1080p 14 inches over here to 125. And I have been harping on that idea.
Yeah, same thing on my laptop. Yeah.
That's the perfect scaling. It like maths out to a weird 1600 by 900 display, right? If you want to think about it in those terms.
Right.
But that's the perfect size for 14 inches. 1080p is a little too small. I know these people with their eagle eyes can read that teeny itty bitty little, oh my God, text, but most people, man.
I use it often, but like I was pleasantly surprised to see.
At 1080p?
Uh-huh.
You and your eagle eye.
I don't know. I have good glasses.
Well, yeah, but it's not that it's blurry. It's that it's tiny.
Yeah, so... Yeah, well, it is small. But what it does for me though, like, I feel like the scaling kind of messes up some of the VM stuff I do.
Yeah.
And so, dialing it back is a compromise to 100%.
What you do,
but it's good for me.
That's what I do is if I'm on a scaled desktop, and this is in Windows and Mac and everywhere else too. If I'm on a scaled desktop, unless it's like super like 4K or whatever, I just tell it to go back to 100.
Right.
Go back to regular scaling and it'll be fine. But I get that. I get that with VMs. That is a true pressure point.
I agree with you. I was pleasantly surprised to see it in 125%. And Like, I didn't even notice it, right? Other than, obviously, it was very legible. I didn't even notice it because I didn't notice any artifacting. I didn't notice any, sometimes when you scale things, the font rendering gets a little funky, or, certain icons will look fuzzy. There's a little quirky stuff that comes with it, right?
As a matter of fact, immediately after installing Fedora 39, some Windows... at 125% scaling, the title bar was a little bit blurry. Like the text in the title bar was a little bit blurry. The when you're resizing your window and you get the arrow that points in opposite directions, that was the rest of the mouse was fine. That one mouse cursor was blurry, but I ran my updates, I rebooted, it did its thing, and that all went away. So a later version of 527 fixed a lot of that, and then it stayed fixed when I upgraded to Rawhide and Plasma 6.
Well, and I think some of the reasoning, some of that looks good is Wayland, right?
Yep.
Wayland helps you a lot with those things. So, and certainly a move to Wayland by default, in Fedora and some other places too, but with 6, that is going to be the default, and I think that makes a difference. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. You know what's funny? What's really funny is there's so many complaints about Wayland, right? And screencasting has been one of them for a very, very long time. And people like to blame Wayland for it, but the more I look, especially digging here, 2020, that has been supported in Plasma since 2020. Yeah. And people still complain about it today.
Well, there's certain components of it that aren't great. Yeah.
But the thing is that they complain about it and they put the blame at Wayland's feet. Yes, things have changed and the software has to catch up, but you have to remember that it's the developers of the software that need to start supporting Wayland. Wayland's been around. When did KDE pick it up? Like 2013 or something.
Right. So 12, 13, somewhere around there. Long time.
Developers have had a decade. If you're doing weird things like screen recording or casting or clipboarding or mouse detection or whatever, like they've had a decade to catch up.
Yeah, but I think only until the last maybe even a couple of years have people really started to focus on that as being, settling into the idea that Wayland is the actual successor. Before that, everybody was still on the fence.
That's very true, but you know what? That actually goes to hang on, what was his name? Aaron Sago. That goes to his point.
Right.
That like the whole KDE 4 debacle thing. Everybody hated KDE 4. It was, and I've compared it to Vista a lot. Because until KDE 4.2, it wasn't really ready. But Aaron's point was that, well, if you don't call it ready, if you don't give it 4.1, then people aren't going to take you seriously. And that's what happened with Wayland. Once desktop started shipping it, and forcing it in front of people's faces, then, only then, did things get fixed.
That's right.
So that's the thing. Don't ship it till it's ready. Don't ship Wayland until... No!
But if you don't ship it, it'll never be ready.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So you have to bite off more than you can chew.
Sometimes.
You just have to do that to force people to do the testing that you need to be able to fix the things that you need to be able to fix so people can be excited about the thing that you have. It's exhausting. At
some point, you have to get it out there in front of people, and you have to ship it. You're going to have bugs. Just file your bugs, people. We'll get them fixed when we can.
Yep, and the folks that are complaining are just a matter of course. It is just the way things have to be. Otherwise, it'll never get tested.
Right.
It'll never get tested. And when it is released, then you'll have the same thing anyway. So what's the point? Just force it.
But to your point, I think, yes, I tested out early days Plasma 6, Beta 1, 2, and now the release candidate. And there are absolutely bugs getting fixed left and right because, like you said, they're putting it in front of people, giving them the opportunity to test them. and stuff's getting fixed. Some things that I didn't have a chance to report stuff, and the next update solved my problem, like right around the corner kind of thing. I mean, so
well, that's good.
Yeah, no, so I did KOS was the first one I did with Plasma 6, and I was getting some weird like stuff with the kicker menu. It would tell, just came up with there was a box, but inside of it said like there's some QML error thing, blah blah blah. But then, an update later, that started working again. And, one of the updates that came through was for that stuff, so it stands to reason. And then
that's cool.
I don't know. I did Plasma 6 on KDE Neon. I didn't really have too many issues with that per se, at least not the plasma portion of it. But don't forget that is running 2204 LTS Ubuntu. So some of the software packaging there is a little aged if you're using things from the repo, but I don't know that that's necessarily the design of it either. So
right.
It's mostly just to test the plasma components. That's the idea of KDE Neon, right? So, that worked. I didn't have too many issues with that, but then Neil proposed the idea of moving on to Fedora Rawhide, and we were like, yeah, that sounds like fun. Let's try.
Why not?
Yeah, so dial it up. And we did, and I've had really good time over there so far. Haven't had to do a lot. The only issue I had was the FFmpeg libs trick that you have posted on your website didn't quite work for me, but that's because the FFmpeg libs hadn't been packaged yet for what is going to be Fedora 40 in Rawhide.
Right.
Before I, when I first installed it. And then, but it turns out you did a little digging after the fact. And,
sure did.
And it's now available as of like yesterday kind of thing. So I haven't done an update today, so I don't have any update for you.
Yeah, they started packaging it as we're recording this yesterday.
Yeah.
So perfect timing.
Yeah, so then Firefox can work again for me instead of having to use something else.
Wait, what happened to Firefox?
Well, if you don't have any FFmpeg libs, you don't get the codecs, and then you can't watch YouTube.
Yeah, of course. The entire reason I wrote that post in the first place. That's right.
Yeah.
That's really annoying. You could do the Flatpak Firefox, but some of the integration's not 100% there yet.
Yeah, I ended up doing I had the Flatpak of Vivaldi on there because I'm kind of been trying that out a little bit, and I like Vivaldi, so I use that.
Yep. And the notes, what can I say about the notes? The notes are good. So I've been hacking away at this. I stayed in the nice, warm, soothing embrace of Plasma 5.27 for while you were in beta 1, beta 2 area.
Yeah.
I did not get onto the Plasma 6 train until Neil mentioned it with Rawhide, and I was like, you know what, RC, it's a release candidate. This could possibly be what gets put. Okay, I'll do
pretty
it.
Close.
I'll do it. And I mean, I didn't have any issues outside of the just don't tinker too much with the taskbar.
Oh,
don't do it.
All right. Well, now I've got to go fiddle with it.
I still have, even in 5.27, I still have these weird issues. Like, I'll get to the point where I'm like, okay, this needs to go here, and this needs to go here, and make this a little bit bigger, and I'll move this over here, and I'm going to put the icons over here. I'm going to add this thing right here. And then, at a certain point, the bar will just, like, freak out, and then you'll never get it back to the way that it was. You have to just start it over. And I don't know. And it's always been, I'm sure it's just me doing too much. When I leave it alone, it's fine. It's perfect. And if you were to ask me to, hey, go write a bug report about that. Well, I don't remember the 700 things that I did.
Yeah. What steps did I do to lead up to that? I have no idea.
No clue. So, even if I could write a bug report, would anybody follow those steps the way that I did anyway? It wouldn't be a common problem, and it probably wouldn't be worth anybody's time. But the point being, don't tinker with it too much. Set it up the way you like and leave it alone.
All right. Well, I'm going to try that now.
I can't leave it alone. I can't. I'm telling you, like, resize the thing, move it to different parts of the screen, and like add stuff, remove stuff. Do the whole 9.
All right. Challenge accepted.
Okay. If it stays alive, I'll be surprised.
It probably won't, but I'll give it a try.
You never know. You never know. Maybe I'm just really good at blowing things up. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm game to try.
So no real problems with 527. Some maybe some like weird animation stutters here and there, but I mean, it's fine. That's just me being overly picky. Plasma 6 though.
Mm-hmm.
There are still some weird little weirdities, and I can point at them right. They're on the screen right now as Gen 2 compiles back there over an SSH session, which I know I shouldn't do. I should do like tmux or something, but whatever. As Gen 2 compiles, I love my blur. This is something that I've said on this show about 6 million times.
Yes.
I love the blur. Turned on the blur, there is no blur.
There's no blur.
The only blur is in my webcam camera right now. Let me fix that. Yeah. The only blur is there, and that's not what I don't want blur
that's
there.
The wrong
I want
blur.
That's the wrong, exactly. It's the wrong blur. There's no blur.
Now that mountain is crisp.
That's a crispy mountain. It's crispy cold and crispy pixels. So I don't.
Yeah, that's not good.
I turned on the blur like I always turn on the blur because I love the blur. The blur is very lovely. But it didn't go. And then I was like, okay, well, let's full screen this bad boy because I want it to be as big as possible for the show.
Right.
For the capture. And it doesn't hide the taskbar. So me and Dan were talking about this before the show.
I didn't quite understand. It's look, you're not talking maximized, right?
Correct. Not the middle of the 3 top right buttons. That. That is not full screen. That is just maximizing a window.
Right.
Full screen is when you have like a browser or a terminal and you hit F11.
Yep.
And it's just like boom. The whole thing is the screen.
Mm-hmm.
And then you got to use workspaces to kind of get around, right? Even in F11 full screen mode, the taskbar is just right down there. And it wouldn't be such a problem, but blur doesn't work. So, like, it would be fine, mostly, if blur worked and I couldn't see exactly what the taskbar was showing me. Like, I can read the time and, yeah. Anyway, so, that's weird.
All right, so you got some bug reports to go right.
Yeah, and then the other thing that kind of cleared itself up is I didn't add the FlatHub repo. I just got a Flatpak ref file for local send so I could shoot files around.
Oh yeah.
I opened it from Firefox and it was like crash, and I was like, okay, all right. So I went into Dolphin, launched it from there, crash, and I was like, well, that's weird.
Right.
So then I just I don't know what I did. Maybe I ran updates or some I don't know what I did. I don't think I ran updates. I rebooted maybe, and then it just started working.
Huh.
And then other Flatpak ref files also worked. So,
maybe you needed a reboot there. I don't know. Like, so I will say, I haven't quite narrowed it up yet. Not sure where the bug report would go, because I need to do a little more time on it. I do think there is some sort of memory leaking type thing going on because I left the laptop going and overnight, and then the next day it's kind of like laggy and sluggish. And I tried to do a remote desktop type session from my Proxmox, over the Spice protocol, with VertViewer, and it never really loaded. The graphics thing, it said graphics something loading or something like that, and it never, like, the window was there, but it never painted anything in. So then I did a reboot, and then it worked just fine. Like, there was no laggy or anything, and it just lit right up. And so
something with the reboot,
something cleared out with some memory problem.
Yeah, The problem with these is that they're really hard to replicate, so it's really hard to write a bug report about it.
You got to put some time on it too, right? It's not something you can do in 10 minutes.
Exactly. And I ran into kind of a weird little issue right before we started the show where my screen kept turning off, and I can't have that. I'm doing, there's junk going on back there without blur.
Mm-hmm.
But, there's stuff going on back there.
Yeah, you want to show it off.
Right. And so I can't have the screen turning off in the middle of everything. So I just rebooted, and it's fine now.
Yeah, the settings started working then. Yes, after you'd already ticked all the boxes.
I already ticked, it had been working prior. I think I'm going to figure this out, but I think the trick was that I unplugged it from power and then replugged it into power. And I think the plasma session was like, we're not in power anymore.
Right.
But I did go in and say, if you're not on power, also don't shut off the screen, which is probably going to kill the battery one of these times. But, not during a show, so it's fine.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. That's a weird one, too. So if I can get a lock on one of these bugs, I'll be happy to submit a report. But they're so weird and intermittent.
Yeah.
And it's hard to replicate sometimes. Yeah. So
we're diving in deep here. I mean, I feel like these things are really unique, and they're not huge bugs, I would say. So I think things are actually shaping up to be really good release.
Yeah, and honestly, please understand that I am specifically focusing on the negatives. There's a whole lot of positive to this.
Oh, there absolutely is.
I love how the little panel just kind of floats there. Until you full screen, maximize something. I actually prefer it that way because I'm a dock guy. I prefer a dock rather than a whole taskbar thing on the bottom.
The whole floating panel thing is cool.
Wayland has been fantastic. I did a few screen recordings there, which is something apparently that people say doesn't work, but it works. And it's just been a really solid desktop outside of those few negatives.
Yeah, no, and like I really love KRunner. That's one of my favorite things. Like it just works really smooth.
The little magnifying glass button on the ThinkPad actually brings up KRunner, so it's
nice.
The equivalent
that was
of
one
F10.
of the macro buttons. They're shortcut buttons that I set up. Actually, just launches KRunner.
Your keyboard with the two massive buttons. One of them has to you gotta smack it. Yeah. And it's like, it's KRunner.
Yeah, no, one of them, like if I plug that in, it would work for KRunner because I mapped, I think, B to KRunner. Absolutely.
That's so cool. Like I need you to have on one, it just needs to play the bruh sound. And on the other one, it needs to open up KRunner so you can look up all the other sounds and play them when you want them or something.
But no, absolutely. No, so the cool thing is, launches KRunner. I love KRunner. It's great.
Yeah. And I can't wait for the Steam Deck to get Plasma 6, man, because that's really when it's going to get hammered on.
As much as you interact with the desktop on that, or at least most people probably, it'll probably be a little bit, right? It'll get good and stable, I think, before they bring it over.
It will. We'll probably see the first 6 LTS before.
Right. So that's 6.2
Steam
probably,
Deck
right? Yeah, 6.1, 6.2, something like that.
Yeah. But there's a really good chance that I'm going to end up being on Plasma. Dude, the Wayland scaling stuff is what's going to steal me away from GNOME.
It feels like a huge leap from where things were with the 5 series and Wayland to where things are now.
Yeah. It has just improved and improved and improved.
Yep.
And I know it's taken a long time, and I know people are unhappy with the amount of time that it has taken for Wayland, but you gotta force it.
Right.
And now that we've been forcing it, man, this last year of Wayland development, of Wayland improvements, really not even just the last year, but the last 3 years has seen such a vast improvement in Wayland. This was the whole crux of that argument of just go try it. Just if you haven't tried it, try it, because things have changed.
Well,
a whole heck of a lot.
I mean, stay tuned in February when Plasma 6 gets released, because that's going to be a great time to try it. I feel like.
I don't know if I can leave it now that Rawhide's RPMs 40s has FFmpeg libs. Now I don't need to leave. That's my real only gripe with Fedora. Just give me the codecs, man. I know you don't package them for legal reasons or whatever, but really, Ubuntu hasn't been sued yet.
I want to watch YouTube. That's about it.
Exactly. without it being choppy. Like, it'll work with those weird little Cisco H264 whatever.
Actually, some videos don't.
Really? I've never
Like, it plays ads. You get the ads, no problem. But then when you get to the video, it says, I'm sorry, something's gone wrong.
Boo.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah,
well,
it's not all of them. You're right. But like a lot of them. Yeah. No, enough that it wasn't very usable.
Okay. All right. Well, you know what? I'm just going to do a little bit of YouTubing. I'll see if Linux Saloon works without installing the codecs first. And then we'll go. We'll go from there.
I don't know. I feel like I was actually trying for some Linux content that just didn't go well.
Really? Okay. All right. Well, that's for future Leo and future Dan. We're going to keep on the Plasma 6 train for I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to Plasma 6 train this until it's released. And then how do you hop off the Rawhide train when 40 releases? How do you undo the Rawhide?
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay.
Do you get off Rawhide? I mean, like, I don't know.
I don't surely. You just change the repos. As easy as that sounds.
Yeah, you probably do. You're probably right. Yeah.
You just change your repos. Yeah, okay.
Timing
here we
might
go.
be important on that.
That's what I'm thinking right there, man. You do it too late and you got like all these I got to roll back now. Whoa. Okay,
you do it too soon
see how it goes.
as well. You could easily break stuff. I don't know. Like, I'm sure timing is important on that. Yeah. Neil will save us.
Neil, text me when it's time. This is your fault.
He'll probably tell us to reinstall.
You know, that's been my go-to. I tend to do that. That's okay. But you know, I would like to just keep it. That would be kind of cool. I'm very much into keeping my systems around for as long as I possibly can. This Gen 2 box, I haven't blown it up. I'm gonna keep it forever. I actually have straight up part clone backups of Gen 2. So I have, you know, that's one last thing. You know what? We'll leave that for next time. But you got to remind me about the Gen 2, what we're going to be doing later on.
Yes, I will.
All right. So Plasma 6 train, we're on the train. We're going to be on the train. We're doing it.
Love it.
I'm going to stay. It's going to be good. It's going to be real good.
And you can catch all the great links at linuxuserspace.show. And if you want to email us, send us some feedback, that's contact@linuxuserspace.show. Or we have a contact form on the website. You can go to linuxuserspace.show/contact.
Or lust.sh. Sometimes I forget about that. It's so short.
Yeah, the short.
And I have such a short memory.
The short URL.
Can't remember. Yeah, the URL. Oh, wow. There's a next time thing. The show continues.
Today?
No.
No.
God, please no. That history.
We did that last time.
My God. That history was a lot. And I am so glad that there are like 12 less years on the next one. Because that was a lot.
Yeah, there was a big gap. Or a big enough gap.
I feel the same way after KDE that I did after Slackware.
Yeah,
and
it has a lot of feel. Same.
After Debian.
Debian was a good
one.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why I didn't feel this way after GNOME, though. But, man, KDE, Slackware, Debian were just...
There were a lot. There's a lot of history. A lot of deep history.
You had to power through it, man. And, you know, wheat from the chaff and whatever. There was so much. It was so much.
We hope you enjoyed that. And, you know, send us some feedback because next time is a topic show.
Sure enough. And we got one topic lined up.
We do. But we'll take some feedback too. Yeah, we'll absolutely. Absolutely.
We always carve out a section for the feedback. So make sure you give us all your hot takes. I'm into hot takes right now. So give me your hot take. Give me a hot take about Plasma 6, man. Give me your hot take about GNOME. What's the next one?
45, 6? What are we up to?
I lost count.
I lost count too. I'm sorry.
When the numbers get big like that, it's like, what version of Firefox are we on? I don't know. 1045?
28? I don't know. Yeah, right.
I don't know.
Right.
I don't know.
Right.
Like, because I'm pretty good at keeping up with the numbers, but when the numbers get real big, what? You got me. So yeah, give me your version hot takes, or any other kind of hot take you can throw out at me.
Yeah.
What is the and I'll have the image maybe if I can remember right here. It's where that one guy is facing that crowd of a bunch of other people, and they got pitchforks and stuff, and then it's the meme where it's like, what opinion do you have that's got you like this? Yeah, where you're facing the crowd, everybody hates you. What's that opinion of yours? I gotta know, because there's a good chance I probably have that same opinion, man.
Yeah,
bloat.
Maybe I do.
Mine is bloat.
Oh yeah, I got him today on that one. I made him laugh.
He did, yeah. The dreaded bloat.
Mm-hmm.
I heart bloat. Pretty sure I need a T-shirt that says that, because oh my God, if there is not a ton of Linux folks that just absolutely hate bloat. But I'm like, what are you doing with that 500 megabytes of space anyway, man? That's going to get me in trouble. Anyway, next topic show.
Yeah, absolutely. And, so we've got to do another history. We got to get one lined up for the next time.
Turns out.
It turns out Gnome got split apart. Well, forked a few times.
Bifurcated. I don't know why.
Yeah, bifurcated.
I thought about that word, but
that's a good one.
Trifurcated even.
It did.
Because
yeah. So we're picking one of those. And
flip a coin. We're about to find out. What is it?
Do you have the 3-sided coin? Because we're going to flip it.
Mm-hmm.
No, okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it turns out it's on the side or something, not heads or tails. It's something else, and so we picked Mate.
Oh, got him. Yeah, apparently when you go to the board game store, they don't have a 3-sided die. They only have a 4-sided die. It was Cinnamon, Mate, Budgie, LXQ. We rolled the die. We got Mate. And it turned out Mate is the oldest of them all. So it really, really actually worked out.
It works. Totally works.
We're kind of doing this chronological thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's falling into that sort of place.
Why not? Well, KDE was a little before.
Little out of step.
And then we did but you know what? They're all about the same.
They are. There's a couple of groupings, honestly, and so yeah, you had those early 90s things, and then
got those out of the way. Except, and I know it, Enlightenment, but
Yep, that was an early one, and we'll get there. I think. I don't know. Like, it's hard. Some of the history things are hard, so we got to take it easy on Leo. Really, is what it's all about here. So we've got to.
I need a break.
We got to give him a little pat on the back and say, "It's okay, buddy. We'll get you back in the game in a minute."
February. Just let me have February, and then we'll come back and we'll revisit Enlightenment. Maybe not. We'll revisit the question.
so in our really preliminary looks at things, we think we can hammer this out a little easier. So yeah, we're happy, and yeah, it's one of the ones to discuss anyway, because like I said, it's a fork of GNOME at a controversial time, and we'll pick it up from there. So you can stay tuned. Tell us all the things on Reddit, Twitter, Mastodon, and Telegram. Find some platform where we're at, and whatever you do, just join in the conversation. And we'll have all the links in the show notes on linuxuserspace.show. So Leo, where can we find you?
Oh, you can find me over at Mastodon at leochavez@mastodon.social. I'm still on the Twitter one too. Same handle.
All right. Yeah, and you can find me at KC2BZ at both places. At KC2BZ at mastodon.social and at KC2BZ at Twitter. All right, come back in 2 weeks. We'll have more Linux User Space.
Bye. You know what we don't say? At Linux user space at mastodon.social. And then, of course, same handle on the old Twitters and like pretty much everywhere.
That's true. We have that at both of those things in all the places. Huh?
Sure enough. You know, if I had pictures to send, we have a pixel fed one too.
We do.
But I did just get a camera.
I should do some pictures. I could do that.
Okay.
All right.
You know what? Dan, just send me the pictures.
You
heard it here first, folks. Dan's going to be filling up that pixel fed.
Probably not, but we could put some more things there. Yes, absolutely.
You're right. You're absolutely right. Give me a screenshot of your Plasma 6 desktop.
I should.
After it crashed.
After it crashed, yes.
We'll send that in as a bug report.
It's a good plan.